hiring experience to separate the great from the good, and will help you adapt to the challenges of hiring remotely. This brings faster hiring, reduces bias, and gives your engineers more time to solve problems that matter. That's why we're already working with some of the best engineering teams in the world. Schedule a demo with us to learn how we can help you shape the future of work today. Codility, remote tech hiring everywhere.
Welcome everyone to the Tech Recruiter's Guide to Hiring Developers webinar. Today I'm joined by 3 seasoned recruiters, Joe from Epic Games, Munira from Microsoft, and Eshan from NextThink, to discuss the topic of how to tackle the challenging task of recruiting technical talent in today's demanding market. In the next 45 minutes, the main topics we will discuss is how to attract talent and how to source or what sourcing strategies to follow, best practices and steps for a remote-friendly hiring process, and last but not least, how to provide a world-class candidate experience. There will be no separate Q&A segment at the end, but you will have the chance to submit your questions during the event, and we will pick a few to discuss with our guests. I'm Daniel Grancher. I'm a lead technical recruiter responsible for engineering hiring here at Codility, and I will be your host today. And let's get started. First of all, I'd like to thank Joe, Munira, and Eshan for joining me. It is great to discuss these topics with experts of technical recruitment. And I'd like to ask everyone to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about yourself and your background in technical recruitment. Let's start with you, Eshan.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for this nice introduction. Thank you for setting up everything as well with Codility. So, well, my name is Eshan. I'm working as a technical recruitment and sourcing manager at NextThink. So I've been working for NextThink for the past 5 years almost. In July, it will be 5 years. So before that, I had no clue about technical recruitment. I really didn't know what it meant, right? So I just jumped straight into it when I started at NextThink, spent tons of time with the engineers trying to understand what they were doing, get really curious about the technical environment, and then grew in the company as well. Now I'm happy that I'm able to really have a team with me to help really recruit the best technical people, talent out there in the market. So this is me. I'll pass it on to the next one.
All right. Munira, can we continue with you?
Of course. Hey, everyone. I am Munira Ali. I work at Microsoft right now as a technical sourcer. However, I started my journey back in India. So my hometown is India. I started doing technical recruitment from there. Worked then for a few years. Then I moved to Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong for around 4 or 5 years doing the same thing. And then I moved to London 4 years ago, and I haven't left technical recruitment so far. Worked internally, externally at the RPO, sat across different sides of the table, and enjoyed every bit of it. And this has given me a chance to learn more about recruitment and everything. And I started my YouTube channel a few months ago just to give it back to the community, what I have learned so far, and how my mission is to tell everyone, like, you know what, there is no fear while doing the interviews. And if with the right sources, you can nail any interview that you want. And I'm passionate about diversity and diversity sourcing as well. So we're going to talk about it today, but that's all from my side. Happy to be here. Thank you, Codility, Daniel, Luis, for calling me.
Yeah, we are definitely going to discuss the topic of diversity. It's a very important aspect and point to consider nowadays. And last but not least, Joe.
Cool. Thank you. Hey, everyone. My name's Joe Burridge, and I'm a senior recruiter at Epic Games. So if you're not aware of Epic Games, we are a video games company and a tech company. So we make games like Fortnite, Fall Guys, and Rocket League, also technology like Unreal Engine. And so my role here, I've been here for about 18 months, and my role is hiring for tech and engineering teams across Europe. So I've done hiring in North America, as a flexible recruiting team has to be sometimes. I have about 10 years in recruiting, all of that has been within the tech industry. The last 5 years of that has been within the games industry. That was very much, I'm in my dream job territory. Before Epic, I was working at Electronic Arts, where, again, I was working with game studios and tech teams. So working with the teams that made games like Need for Speed, Battlefield, and FIFA, to name a few. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. And lastly, I will introduce myself a bit better. So once again, I'm Daniel Garancher, and I'm a lead technical recruiter here at Codility. I spent about 8 to 9 years in technical recruitment. Started in an agency and then joined Google. Been there for more than a year. Spent some time at BlackRock. Then I also been at Microsoft for quite some time, and joined Codility about 8 months ago to get Codility to the next level and basically get our products on the market and help our customers and basically engineering teams of the world to harness the engineering potential. I'm very happy to be here with you guys. So I think that the best approach would be to go in a chronological order, starting with the first step that you usually take when starting a new recruitment process. And what I would like to ask is, what is the first thing that you consider before even kicking off a recruitment process? What will you talk to? What are you considering at that stage? Joe, you finished last, so why don't we start with you this time?
Yeah, great. I was just about to put up my hand, like I was back in a classroom or something. Like choose me. Yeah. So I think the phrase that I use here quite often is more haste, less speed, right? So I think when I first started recruiting, if I was given a job, I just want to get out there and start searching straight away. But I really say that the key thing is really taking your time to prepare. And also taking hiring managers on that journey as well, because hiring managers too, especially new ones, will just want to get started straight away and start looking. So what I say by that, my first question would be like, why are we hiring? Like, what do we need another person on the team or in the company to do? Like, what's the problem this person will be solving ultimately? Because I do think is the role of the recruiting team to think about talent in all aspects. Sometimes I come back to that hiring managers and teams, and it's like, sounds like you may not actually need to hire for this role. Sounds like we could solve this in other ways by using internal resources more smartly or something like that. So that's what which is counterintuitive. I think counterintuitive for recruiters to be saying that, but that is what we should be thinking about, talent across the whole company. And then I'll keep it high level, allow Munira and Eshan to get in, but yeah, I think it's just the importance of alignment. So why are we hiring? Thinking about then what are we looking for? Is what we're looking for right, based on the market or the diversity of the team and so many other factors. So yeah, I'll just end off by saying alignment and taking time to prepare is really key.
Thank you very much. Eshan, what do you consider when you are kicking off a process?
Well, I think that was quite well explained by Joe. I think I think something also that we really need to focus on is the team themselves. Sometimes some team actually have the capacity of absorbing new resources. Some other don't. So we just really need to understand their situation. Why is that important? Because the person that we'll bring will actually be part of a system. It won't be just one person coding and applying programming on his own or her own. It will be part of a system. So it's important to understand like the team structure, the project they'll be involved in. I think that is key before we even start to look for someone, because maybe someone can have great technical skills, but actually cannot fit in a specific team, and the other way around. So yeah, I think I've just completed with that.
Thank you. And Munira, I assume that you have quite a lot of candidates going through processes. how do you handle them? And also, when obviously when you are getting a new position to fill, what are the steps that you take?
I think my fellows Joe and Eshan has all said all the right things. If I have to add something in this is that when we get the role, the important thing is what is the role and how the candidates, applicants, or engineers who are we bringing in, what they will do now and what they will do in next 1 2 years 5 years down the line. So how we gonna make the career for them, what career are we providing for them, how they will be excited to work. I mean, say I work at Microsoft, right? So my first question to my hiring manager is why they should work here. What exciting things are we providing to them to work with us in this role, and how their role will look like next few years down the line, and how we can make this our recruitment process more interactive and more candidate experience, like how we can make the experience better for them so that they not only enjoy this, they want to look forward to work with us.
Very well said. And the candidate experience is definitely a topic that I would like to discuss a bit further today. And it definitely starts with setting the right foundations to have a great candidate experience, and that starts with the hiring manager and figuring out what the right role is, or what the role should be, and how we should we present that to the candidates so they are interested in going through usually a multiple-step interview process. All right, so I guess now your role is kicked off, and I guess the next stage is finding the right candidates for the said role. Can you share some insight into your most successful methods of sourcing technical talent? What are you using? Where are you looking? How are you getting engaged with those talents? Eshan, if you would like to start.
Sure. Happy to start. So, well, unfortunately, I don't have a magic recipe, right? Otherwise, I would have sold this in a very expensive price. So, but anyway, I think it starts with the for me, of course, it's only my opinion, but it starts with the recruiters themselves. The reason why, before we even speak about the methods and the tools that we're using, I think the understanding of the technical environment is key. As I was saying a bit earlier, someone with great technical profiles can be a great candidate, but not a fit to a team. So if the recruiters actually understands what the project they've been involved in, what they did, how they actually worked in the past, and understand all the technical environment that comes with it, I think it's the first step. It's not part of the method, but I think it's the recruiter. It's key for the recruiter to understand everything. So it starts with the recruiters, I would say, for sure. Then in terms of pure methods, I think we need to see also recruitment as a collaboration. Sometimes it feels like, okay, the recruiters are going to recruit, they need to find someone. I think as a key part in the method of sourcing, it will be a collaboration with the hiring manager, and even extensively with the teams themselves. I think all of us, we have a huge network with recruiters, I guess. So, developers, they have a network with developers as well. So it feels like it should be always part of the method to bring everyone together in order to be successful in the sourcing part. Then I think that we all use LinkedIn. It's the most famous platform, and it actually brings good results. So I would say that in the method, we should be really structured in the strategy and how we approach sourcing. I don't think that we should only use LinkedIn, but if it's the tool that is working the most, we should maybe spend the most time in it, but it should be the only tool. I think we should be creative as well in our approach. I think we should find varied tool, varied platform, target also local markets that we don't really think of initially when we start sourcing. And I think those are key methods to be able to be efficient in the sourcing. Sourcing also, it's kind of number game, if I can put it. I don't really like to put it like this, but the more people you'll approach, the more chances you'll have to get some answers. However, we also need to adapt our messaging. I think that today, being really personal, having a personalized message is important, because people feel that you actually read the CV and the experience. What happened to us sometimes, we have to be aware that the developers and engineers, they're getting approached thousands of times per month. So how do we make a difference? I think it's part also of the methods, and it needs to be you need to think about it before you even start reaching out to people, see how you will approach those candidates and so on. This is how I would put as methods. Of course, it's key kind of takeaways, but there is no magic recipe, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. And we also got a question from the audience. What would be your top tips for reaching out to the passive candidates and receiving any response reactions from them? And I think that this ties very well into this topic. So if you would like to answer this as well, please go ahead. And for the other guests, please also consider this question. Next, Joe.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just gonna quickly run through like all of the I guess biggest sources of hiring. So first of all, like for referrals, Epic has a really high referral rate. And this is very often the first place I go. So I've opened the position, I've advertised the role, and then immediately I'm looking at I just opened up a backend engineer position focused on using Scala, right? So I opened that, and then immediately when I contacted all the backend engineers who are based in Europe at Epic, and was just like, just to let you know, we've advertised this role. And I'm just like, if you could do one of these things, if you could either like my LinkedIn post, like my tweet, or the best result would be if you could actually send me a referral. And just so that they're aware, I find that most people in the company aren't aware of the jobs that are going live all the time. Even in your own recruiting team, like someone could say, "Hey, I've seen this position advertised." I'm like, "Cool." I had no idea. I'm not checking our own jobs page every single day. So it's good to just keep your employees in the know. And we do that. We also, there's a all company-wide email that goes out monthly highlighting some of our new positions as well. So referrals is key. It's a double-edged sword, though, when it comes to diversity. So you tend to find people tend to refer people like themselves. Just that's how human nature works, right? So it's great. Referrals tend to perform really well, stay longer. It's a very quick form of hiring as well, and high quality. But at the same time, that's why it's really important to be directly sourcing for diversity, because then the more diverse people get in, the more diverse referrals they're likely to give, and you can exponentially grow your company with diverse talent that way. Of course, LinkedIn Recruiter. Of course, so many of our hires come from there. But we do also bolster with some sourcing tools, like we were recently using Gem, and now we're using Eightfold. And for example, what Eightfold does is allows us to search through our databases. We've had multiple ATS systems throughout the years, and we can search all through those. And it has an AI, so it automatically can search through that as well, and find candidates that are in our system and recommend them to us. So that's been a really cool bit of technology that we've been using recently. And then, like Eshan was saying, like you do have to get creative. If you're a recruiter in tech and you're hiring engineers, the market's incredibly busy, and it's going to be mostly like, if I was just looking at my numbers for the hires I've done at Epic so far, and I think only 14% of them have been hired through like people directly applying through our website. So. And the rest tend to be a mixture of referrals and directly sourcing, and then there was like a couple that from agency. But so sourcing is key. Obviously, we're using the tools I mentioned, LinkedIn Recruiter and Eightfold, but using things like recruiting.net, which helps you like X-ray search, things like Stack Overflow and GitHub. I use Twitter a lot, actually. tend to find people a lot more open, responding to a tweet than perhaps like an email or a LinkedIn message or something. And then you've got to be out there with at events and conferences and meetups as well. So there's so many different ways to source. I think there's no particular one that is going to get you to win. Well, I mean, LinkedIn Recruiter is like the standard, right? But you need, in your strategy, you need all of these other things to make sure you're finding the best people. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Munira, what's your best strategy that works so far?
I think the best strategy is not to avoid or not to leave any stone unturned when you are going out there. I would not use the word hunting for software engineers, but let me just say finding or looking for the talent in the market, right? So I think, obviously, as we all know, that we cannot avoid LinkedIn being that the one of the biggest database of talent, like whether it's engineering, non-engineering, whatever is there. So I definitely don't avoid LinkedIn, but what I do is I try to avoid other channels as well, like database and referrals is my two best ways to look for the talent out there. Because you know what, if somebody is in my database, I know that they're interested with Microsoft, I know that they would like to work with us. What I need to do is find out the right opportunity for them. So when I get some roles, I do look out at my database. I tell my team and everyone, like, hey, we are hiring this role. If you know anyone, let us know. So it's like we get the talent who is being referred by them, and they tell the candidate as well, like, this is a team. They know everything. It's like my job is half done already. All right, and all I need to do is prepare them, put them into the interview process, and way to the path of success. But apart from that, we do a lot of passive sourcing as well. So I truly believe that employee brand is really really help us here when it comes to diversity sourcing. Specifically, I think talent is there everywhere. It is up to us, how do we attract them, engage them, and let them know, like, this is what we are offering. So in terms of that, we recently made the Reddit page for Microsoft. So I do a lot of hiring for European locations, especially Prague. So our team made the Reddit Prague page. We do a lot of video, real life video interviews as well of our software engineers. I will share the link here, where the engineers talk about how did they got this role, what challenges they had, and how did they prepare for those challenges when they're actually interviewing with Microsoft. So, and what they are doing right now and how they are successful. So these are the real life stories that we go out put there to engage the talent in the market, and that has been successful. We have, since after that, the data that we are seeing right now has increased, and that shows that, like, the efforts that we are doing has been successful. And of course, as Eshan and Joe said, that you cannot leave when you are doing engineering, specifically in the tech background. You cannot leave GitHub, you cannot leave Stack Overflow, you cannot leave Twitter, and you you can be creative in Quora as well, and you can be creative in other social media platform. I think there is a we all recruiters have some specific channel that we love it. um I have worked on Twitter. It was like hit and miss for me, but I do love GitHub. Like, I definitely go and source from GitHub, and that's my favorite channel. We also use this new channel that we have is Seek Out. And Seek Out is something that has helped us. You can use for diversity sourcing, you can use for location sourcing, you can also use for specific area that you're looking for. And I really liked it how database driven it is, and how much reports I can get. So this has definitely helped me in for me in terms of my sourcing.
Mhm. Yeah, GitHub is definitely one of my favorite as well. And you mentioned somewhat like hunting, and with this going with this analogy, if you want to catch a fish, you need to go where the fish is. So hopefully no one takes it on themselves. But yeah, GitHub is definitely a place where a lot of developers are, and you can have a very good results. Looking up their profile, looking what they are interested in, looking what they've been working on recently, and that's something that can be very useful.
Daniel,
Hmm?
sorry to jump in. There's been some questions in the chat there, and there was one particularly good one that could I quickly respond to that, or do we need to?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sorry. Sorry to interrupt. So Mohammed had asked a question. How do you guys approach passive candidates, and then how do you maintain a relationship with them if they're not open for any opportunity at the moment, but you want them to join your company one day in the future? So just some ways in which I'm dealing with that now and have dealt with that in the past. So one really easy way is to just you'll chat to someone over email or whatever it is, even on a call, and then just set a reminder like, okay, I'll see you in 3 months. Add that reminder into my calendar in 3 months' time. That's like the easiest way, like to manually do it. I think some ways that you can automate that though. I've worked at a company in the past where we had almost like a newsletter function in our careers website so that they could sign up there and that they're notified about new positions that come up in the future. And also there's like it was like a company newsletter that goes out with big important updates that they might be interested in. Same thing, I'll direct them to be like, oh yeah, you should follow the Epic Games career page on LinkedIn, or just like set up a quick LinkedIn alert so that you can be notified if you see something in the future, and then you can always just get back in touch with me that way. And then another way is that using I mentioned we're using Gem and also Eightfold. These can you can set up like automated emails. So I could set up an email sequence and then set up one for like 6 months from now. So if they respond to me within that time, then it will cancel it. But if not, I know there's kind of like running in the background, and that's kind of like for long-term pipeline building and things like that. Like I said, it's just keeping in touch with people for the long term, because great candidates is like, okay, nothing right now, but that could be a hire, a year down the line. So that's my answer.
Just to jump in also, because indeed there've been like many questions about how to approach passive candidates, and Joe said it very well, that having something running in the background, I think it's great. But also I think that sometimes we have, if a candidate is not answering and the profile is good, there is a couple of ways. Like you can approach also on personal LinkedIn. If you just approach this candidate with LinkedIn Recruiter, you can also see the network. If anyone in the company is linked to this person, bridge the gap and try to reach this person with the network. Also, the manager can give it a try at this person LinkedIn, because sometimes it's more meaningful for candidates to have the manager directly reaching out to them. I think that there is many ways. I think we also represent kind of the company. So sometimes if you're too pushy, it doesn't reflect very well in terms of company image. So yeah, you need to find, I think, a right balance, and of course keeping the candidates up to date. I like, by the way, the newsletter ID, which is interesting. If someone is interested, have a list and send the openings over. So yeah.
Thank you. And we touched diversity briefly so far, but I think that it's such an important topic. We should definitely dedicate some time to it. How do you ensure diversity in your pipeline? How do you make sure that you have all kinds of diversity? What methods do you use, and how do you make that happen? Munira?
Yes, I think diversity is very important these days, to have a diverse and inclusive culture. If you want to have a diverse and inclusive culture, that should reflect in your sourcing and recruitment as well. So I think what what I do usually is, let me tell you that we do set up the goals for that. If I have to specifically talk about women in tech, right? We all know that we struggle diversity, especially the women number or the female number in a tech team, right? So how do we do that? We set goals for that. We do. I also do lot of kick-off diversity initiatives. For example, I did an event in February this year, which was about the struggles that women in tech have these days. What are the struggles, and how, as a Microsoft, we overcome that? So I called up the volunteers who have been through that their journey, so they can talk about their real life story. So this was the event in February, which was successful, and that yielded me 500 leads who are interested to join Microsoft. And you know what, I'm still using that leads right now because that were so many. So definitely proactive sourcing is that you cannot avoid that. And I've also noticed there is that sometimes, the interviewer's training is important, right? The unconscious bias training, it is important in the terms that when they are hiring someone, you sometimes hear like, what, I want, let's say, I want the replica of John Doe. You know what? The John Doe was there, but we don't have John Doe anymore, right? You cannot duplicate or replicate someone. You have to show them the data. You have to tell them that you have to be more inclusive. You have to think about how come you are bringing other people right now. So, unconscious bias training for the interviewers and the diverse panels. When you are calling, let's say, women in tech, or let's say other cultures as well, making sure that your panels is also diverse. What's the point if you're calling a women and there are, don't take this wrong, but there are only guys talking about it, and it's like kind of intimidating as well when they are interviewing to them. So do that, and always don't forget, as a recruiter, as a sourcer, we can make a huge difference. So challenge the status quo, let them know that, you know what, this is, we can make a difference through our sourcing methods, and present that data to them. There is a talent insights, there are so many softwares out there. Take out the data, present it to them, and see that this is what we're doing, but we have to do this now if we have to up to the market. That's me.
Thank you. Eshan?
So it's a huge topic, fascinating topic, very important. I think, well, Munira seems to be really an expert in the field. For us, I think, well, as she said, I think what we need for diversity recruitment is an alignment of the whole company. I think it doesn't only come to recruiter to be, well, I want to have a diverse pipeline and recruit people from everywhere. But it's more like as a whole in the company with the managers. I think Munira mentioned it as well. In terms of trainings, it's important to have some trainings for everyone that are interviewing candidates in the panel. I think it comes also with a strategy. For me, as I see, diversity is kind of a long-term battle. It's not something that you will fix in a year or two. It's really more than that, because today the challenge that we have is that when you go to an engineering school, what you see is 90 to 95% of the students are male, right? So the challenge comes with that. It's in the future, how do we do to kind of change the mentalities? How do we change the way of how we see engineering, get interest from more diverse people in universities, in schools? I think it comes from there. And then you have all the other actions that you can actually take to make this happen now. But I think it's kind of a long-term vision, long-term work. But we need to, everyone needs to go in that direction and be aware of that.
And thank you very much. And just I want to throw into the topic of this preparation, or anything that we can do to ensure that our diverse candidates are performing to their best in the process. And if Eshan or Munira, you want to add something to that, please do so. And also Joe for the base part of the question.
Can I add something here?
Sure.
So I think preparation is really important in terms of when it comes to that, especially like women in tech here. All right, they like for them, like there are so many statistics out there, like that women think differently than men, right? So it is really important that we cater to them according to what they need and what they are thinking, right? So what I generally do or follow is fulfilling those needs first. So be transparent or authentic. They want to know everything at one go, right? It's not that, hey, you know what, this is something, just a food for a thought, and you hold back the rest of the strategy. Don't do that. I would suggest is give them back whatever you have about the team, about the hiring manager, about how the roles look like, and you know what, the relocation, if they're relocating, relocation, what are the numbers, what are the schools, everything, so that you give them all the important secret spice for them to make a decision that you know what, they're interested or not, and prepare them for the interview. Sometimes in our job description as well, when I go through, I like, oh no, they read so many things, I don't think so I have all those skills, so you know what, I'll rather not apply. And it is true, I have been through that, honestly speaking. So having the correct job description, which should be inclusive, so that you're encouraging them to apply, so that is important. If you, or maybe let's say your client does not have the job description like that, I would definitely go and tell and talk to them, present data to them, and tell them, like, you know what, this is really important, and this is how as a sourcer and recruiter we can make a difference.
Thank you. We have less. Oh, sorry, John, go on.
Really quick one. Just on that, I've used tools in the past that like you can run your job advert through, and it can tell you if you're using more masculine or feminine coded language. I'm going to include a link in the chat to a free one that is actually still really good, and it's great to just sense check. Like, aim for using feminine coded language, and the science behind that is that men will still apply to adverts written with feminine language, but you'll find less women will apply to heavily masculine coded adverts. So you're aiming for the feminine coded ones, and I'm just putting a link in the chat there.
Cool. Thank you very much. Next question. What does a typical interview process look like in your company? And let's start with you, Joe, since you finished once again last.
Yeah. So typically, we try to keep the processes as lean as possible. I think that's the most important thing. As lean as possible, but still keeping the assessment high. So it's typically a recruiter screening call, and then you would chat to a hiring manager, maybe a hiring manager, one other person on the team. Then you do a test, if you're a software engineer, a coding test, and then it's a final interview. Final interview typically consists of maybe 4 45-minute, 1-hour calls, usually 2 people in each of those. For our engineers, we very rarely do any like live coding exercises or anything like that. The only time we ask you to do any sort of coding would be during the test. So our interviews tend to be conversations, very technical conversations, I'm sure you can imagine. But yeah, so 4 stages: recruiter screening, chat to the team, test, final interview.
Munira? How is it at Microsoft?
Well, we use Codility as a technical test. So technical test comes, so it's first is a recruiter's sources screen, where we would like to know, or at least I would like to know what they are doing, what is their motivation, and you know what roles they are actually after, so that you know what, instead of telling them what I am giving it to them, I would like to know what they want, so I try to match what I have to offer to them. So in this way that I do that. And second is Codility. So we most of the software engineers go through a Codility test, and then after that, there is a technical and non-technical interview, which are 4 rounds of 3 technical competency and 5 non-technical competency. So yeah, 3-step process, quick and easy.
Thank you. Eshan?
Well, I think it's kind of the same, right? I would say it's 4 stages as well. But even though for some of our teams, we also use Codility. It depends. Some of the teams are using kind of an internal technical assessment. And there is a couple of things. Either we do the technical recruiter interview, and then we send directly the technical assessment, depending on the situation, or there is the hiring manager with the tech lead interview in between, and then the tech assessment and the final one. So yeah, mainly more or less the same.
And so since the last 2 years, I guess remote hiring was very prominent or became very prominent. How do you ensure that your process is remote friendly?
So, well, I can take it. Well, we didn't really have the choice, right? in the past couple of years. So I think that it's a good question, because before we actually didn't put a lot of effort in making sure that it was actually remote friendly. We just did what we had to do, invite candidates on site and so on. Now, I think we are just really mindful of the remote work situation with everything that happened in the last couple of years. So I'd say to ensure that it is remote friendly, we just do what we can with the tools that we have, making sure that we can adapt to everyone's schedule. It's way quicker as well. I think the tools that we're using, well, in Codility, there is this kind of live coding session that we can use as well to make them code. It's kind of can be part of the technical test. For the rest of the interviews, it's quite easy with Zoom or any tool that you can use. And I think it is the way that we do. For sure, we had to adapt, and I think we did it pretty well. All the companies had to adapt, and now it's almost automatically remote friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe, Munira, do you have anything to add to this part, or did Eshan summarize it well from your point of view as well?
I think Eshan did a good job. I think, I mean, hey, there's only so many ways that you can do a video call, right? So, yeah, I think, as we've said multiple times here, just making sure the candidates are prepped, and that, and if the technology fails, making sure that they know who to contact, and they have multiple contacts and ways of just continuing on, or just letting them know, being like, hey, if the technology fails that day, don't worry about it, we'll do it again another time. So I think going back to interview training, though, there are plenty of things that you miss during like video calls, just the non-verbal communication. It can hinder some candidates, it can benefit some candidates. So I think it only comes with practice and also unconscious bias training. So if interviewers are aware, like that the video interview scenario, the benefits and disadvantages, then it can help with your assessment.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you very much. We are very close to the end of today's session. So if each of you could share one key takeaway that you would like our audience to leave with, please do so. Share that with us. Munira?
Yes, of course. I think my key takeaway would be is like there are no right and wrong in technical recruitment. But if you do make a mistake, don't let it hamper you, like, oh, I made a mistake, or I should not do recruitment. There is so much competition and everything. Don't let it take it down. All right, it's all about learning. Recruitment is one of the industry, especially tech recruitment is one of the industry where you can grow and you can specialize your area. And I'm doing it from last 14 years, and you know what, I'm still not bored of it. I did try some other fields, like between HR and a bit of a finance as well. But I came back into technical recruitment because the only thing is it is fast, it is changing, and there is always a learning in this because it is changing so rapidly. So my key takeaway is don't always be curious, and always look out for the new things. And if something is not done, don't think that you cannot do it. Think about what are the other ways you can do it so that you can challenge the status quo.
Joe?
Yeah, so I think it feels like most of the audience here is going to be in recruiting. So I think the key lesson that I have from my career is about the taking the time to prepare and not rushing. I've said this at the beginning as well, but I still am I'm guilty of this time to time now, like even 10 years into recruiting, just getting really excited about a brand new position and wanting to get it started. Hiring managers, I think, especially very good ones, are always wanting to collaborate with you as the recruiting specialist, as the person who can give them really good data on the market, on the company, and ultimately the person who's going to help them fulfill their goals of growing their team. So taking that time to say to yourself, I'm the specialist, I'm going to do this properly, we're going to do this right. And especially if we are advocating for things like diversity hiring or hiring in niche skill areas, really taking the time to set expectations of how long it's going to take and bring the hiring manager along that journey with you and partnering together. So yeah, take your time, partner with the hiring manager, tends to be my key takeaway.
Eshan, I don't know if you could summarize it in 1 minute.
1 minute.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. So, well, no, I'd say Munira and Joe said it very well. I would say that looking at the questions as well, that we are all facing the same challenges in technical recruitment. Sometimes we can feel a bit alone with the requisitions that we have, a bit stuck and not finding people. But I think teamwork is actually much more important than we think in recruitment. Having a team that can help each other, even switching the positions from one recruiter to another, having the help from the managers, from the team we are recruiting for is really key, especially in technical recruitment, because we have so many challenges that we know the market is really difficult, especially at this time. So yeah, I would say that we are all facing the same challenges. It's good that we can exchange, we can talk about it as well. Find new ideas. I think there is we can only find solutions, and there are always some options that we can follow. So I'll go with that.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank each one of you once again, Eshan, Joe, and Munira, for joining me today, and also to our audience for being here and asking great questions. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you got some valuable information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having us.